Hey you, yeah you who clicked on this video. Thanks for giving our channel a shot. And if you will, please do us the honor of watching the video all the way through. Appreciate it. Now onto the video. From episode 6, Book. So let's get to recapping. So this episode opens up immediately after episode 5 with Nathan being buried by Boyd and Kenny while Katri gives the eulogy about Faith in regards to Nathan's death. I found this very interesting because up until this point, I really did think that Katri was faking his faith. I really didn't really believe that under normal circumstances he would be a preacher. Not because he says anything that's inauthentic, but more so because of his demeanor. And in this, he really gives an impassioned sermon. So let's see where that takes us. Well, after this is happening, Tabitha returns the scriptures that Katri had handwritten, because apparently there are no Bibles in the town. So that's interesting. And they talk about Sarah, and he gives some really lame excuse as to why he couldn't capture her, but we know what's up. So then Tabitha asks Katri if he thinks they're dead, and he informs her that emphatically no, they are not dead, that they were alive when they first passed through before the accident. So no, they are in fact not dead. So then we find out, which we already knew from the last episode, that Katri is hiding Sarah, and so he can find out why she tried to kill Ethan and what these voices that Nathan informed him about are really all about. We then go to Boyd and Kenny, who continue to bury Nathan, and they discuss the changes in the town ever since the Matthews family arrived and how the talismans work. And Kenny thinks that Boyd is basically trying to kill himself via his plan to get everybody out. And Kenny is having none of that because he's already been abandoned by one father figure, and he's obviously not interested in letting that happen again. So then we go to the Matthews house, or the newly made Matthews house, and we see that Jim is tinkering with the electrical equipment, and in particular the electrical wires going to the lamp and things like that. And he finds that there's no rhyme or reason to the wiring as to how it works and how it's providing electricity. And being that he's an engineer, he would know. And then Jade storms into their house like nobody's business. I mean, he came in that thing like the Kool-Aid man and asked Jim for his help. Like, I swear he's still high. Like, I know it's only been a couple of days, so he might still be feeling the residual effects, but this dude is like manic, bro. And I'm all for it. I'm all for that Jade energy in this situation, because he's the only one currently acting like everything's a problem. So then we have Katri interrogating Sarah, and he's, doing a soft form of interrogation. He's not really going with the rough stuff. And I'm pretty sure he knows that wouldn't work anyway. And he informs her that he knows about the voices because Nathan told him. So then we go to this. I don't really know what the point of this scene between Julie and Fatima is, where they just announce that they're going to do laundry. Like it's there and then it's gone. So that's kind of weird. So then you get Jim and Jade, and they're stripping parts off of Jade's car, mostly because Jade believes that because it's top of the line, the electronics in it will be of better quality so they can get the radio working. And Jim reflects on the crash, and Jade informs him that, hey, he wasn't driving, and, it's not his fault. All right, whatever. So, Kenny's mom obviously misses Sarah. I mean, Sarah was her helper and a friend to her, and, there's very few people, in the town. I mean, there's not like a lot of variety. So, you take your friends where you can get them. So I can understand her being sad about the whole thing. And you got Tabitha who's cleaning out the old stuff from the house that they're now living in. And she finds the belongings of all the residents that have passed. So then we get to Jade and Jim, and they're heading to the tall tree to boost the signal of the radio. And Jade, in typical condescending fashion, is basically telling Jim that, that some people do, science work and some people climb trees, basically. And, just being really rude, and Jim is having none of it. And so he tells him he can do it himself. Now, me personally, I think that this is because Jade might be afraid of heights, but maybe we'll find out later if this is actually true or, if I'm just, making my own little headcanon. So Boyd goes to talk to Christy and asks her about Kenny and his state of mind because, Boyd finds it strange, Kenny's behavior after he told him, what his plan was. And Christy then has to kindly inform Boyd that Kenny sees him as a father figure, meaning that he's lost his own actual father, that, any talk of possibly not coming back just isn't going to sit well with Kenny. And Boyd obviously wants Kenny to succeed him as the sheriff if anything were to happen to him, given that, he's got those tremors in his hands and he feels like something bad is going to happen. And, you get this really interesting scene of Boyd staring at the blood in the, I guess this is like a storage closet, maybe the boiler room. And I forget who died there, but somebody died there. I think it was Kenny's dad, and that's his blood on the walls. So, it's just little reflectors or little nods to past episodes that I really kind of enjoy about the show. And it's very subtle. It doesn't hit you over the head. And the way that Harold Perrineau kind of acts off of, just seeing this and really letting it hit him in an emotional way without actually having to verbalize was really cool. Now, Khatri continues his questioning of Sarah, and, he's really empathizing with her, and he's talking to her about the night that he arrived in the town, and, he's positing this idea that the townspeople might be chosen to write another book of the Bible that has yet to be written. And so, with this being said, and him kind of leaning into the crazy, Sarah tells him about the voices. So, meanwhile, we have, the lights flickering in the Matthews house, and Ethan and Tabitha are trying to investigate the source of the electricity, but really to no avail. So Jim, he's climbing the tree to get the signal to the radio, and, as Jade is watching him do so, like a supervisor, the tree that he's touching that Jim is climbing starts bleeding. And obviously this is a hallucination or a vision that Jade is having. And he sees dead bodies hanging from the tree along with a symbol. And what's interesting about this is he sees a black Confederate soldier. Now I'm pretty sure this is a Confederate and not Union officer, but I need to look at the uniform a little bit more closely. And I'm pretty sure I'm right and he's a Confederate, but I could be wrong. So let me double check on that. But the soldier chases him down and then impales him. And then it's, revealed that he's in fact having a hallucination. So Jim tries to, rouse him and, get him out of it. And Jade, of course, reacts poorly, as Jade does, and, runs off. All right, fine. So then we have Sarah, who reveals the origin of the voices. Now, Sarah revealing the origin of the voices is very interesting because she says that she didn't believe them off the bat until they revealed to her future events, including the crash involving the Matthews family, and that the voices told her it was going to happen before it happened. So that's what caused her to believe the voices implicitly and follow what they were saying. So the voices promised her, though, that Nathan would be okay, and we see that did not happen. So she's starting to lose faith in the voices. And Khatri is basically trying to get her to help him, in divining where these voices are coming from. Because if they can tell the future, then Khatri basically is telling Sarah that this will increase her value to the town and maybe help her to avoid the box. So we have that happening. Then we have Jim experimenting with the radio. And he does, in fact, get static. So I guess to Jim, this is a hopeful sign, which there are very few in their current predicament. Meanwhile, Jade is at the diner trying to recreate the symbol that he saw in the tree. And Kenny's mom recognizes the symbol that he's scribbling. And so she takes his drawing and goes into the storeroom where all of the dead people's belongings are, and finds an old book, what looks to be a journal, in which somebody else has scrawled the same symbol into a book. So leading us to believe that this has happened before, which also corresponds to Victor. Victor's past, where he was basically saying that what happened when he was a little boy is about to happen again, and this just lends a little bit of credence to that idea. But I'm not for cycles. I think that they'll be able to break it, and I think that Boyd and the rest of them will figure something out. I mean, remember, they didn't have the talismans back when Victor was a young man, so there's already things that are different than what was going on back then. So then we have Sarah trying to draw what she is shown in her vision, and she's really getting frustrated. And it's obvious that she's made multiple attempts, but she draws this really odd image, and we don't really get to see it long enough to understand what it means. But then she tells Katri, in addition to drawing the image, that the voices have told her that they saw what Katri buried the day he arrived. And this apparently spooks the hell out of Father Katri, because now he is definitely more inclined to believe Sarah. So we have Boyd, who's trying to reach out to Kenny any real way he can so that he can get Kenny on board with not only his plan, but the idea that he will be effectively leading the town as sheriff. So Boyd finds his old glove in an attempt to play catch with Kenny. And it's clear that Boyd is kind of out of practice with being a dad, but I do love the fact that he's trying. Like, I really do. And we see Kenny, who's trying to carve a new chess set, because the old one got all the blood on it. And, it's just some way of him trying to cope with his grief over losing his father. And, that's just it. The way that the performance that, oh goodness, the actor gives that plays Kenny, I know his name, but I just can't think of it right now. But he gives a really good performance in this moment. And it is just, you can see the hurt and the anguish and the guilt and the loneliness on him as he's trying to get these pieces just right, like his dad had them. And it's just, that really hit me in the feels, and I really enjoyed that scene. So, they start to play catch, and Boyd reveals to Kenny that his father had Parkinson's, and that he, in fact, has it too, based on the tremors that he's having. And that he's, encouraging Kenny, and he's telling him that he knows that he's ready to lead, just in case Boyd doesn't come back. So then we go to Jim, and Jim sees Tabitha has put holes in the wall in search of the source of the electricity. And Tabitha reveals that the bracelet that she made Jim when they first met years and years ago is in the town, which is inexplicable and impossible. And so she's saying that, being that she can't explain a lot of the things going on, she can at least figure out where the wires lead. It's giving her something to do rather than just go completely insane. It's understandable. So then we go to Katri, who is in fact digging up what he had buried. And I was just waiting. I was like, oh my God, it was like a Seven moment. Like, I'm like, what's under the dirt? What's in the bag? And so we get to see what he had buried, and we see a bottle of liquor and some priestly attire with a collar, along with a chocolate bar. And that was the logo that Sarah was actually drawing on the paper. So I don't know what this means, and I don't know if Katri is in fact a priest. But then again, I always surmise that he was not in fact authentically a priest. Now, Kenny and Boyd play catch, and they talk about Boyd returning from his experiment, and Kenny starts to feel a little bit better about things and is now on board with what Boyd has planned. So then we have this really weird transition to Colony House. And, in Colony House, something's always going on because of just the sheer amount of people that live there. And so you can obviously hear the sounds of some couple, intertwined in some love making. And we see this character that we've never really paid attention to. I just call him Porn Stash because that's what he's got on his face. And, he's walking through the halls, walking upstairs, goes to a room, and there's the flowers that Julie had when we see that inexplicable scene with her and Fatima. And we are now seeing that he's talking to one of the monsters and about to let one into Colony House. And Colony House, just in case you're confused, for the monsters is a big old buffet, and everybody's invited. And that's where the episode ends off, and I can't wait until we see episode 7. So that being said, guys, let us know what you thought of this episode, if you enjoyed it, if you thought it was slow, or if you thought it was very informative like I did. And we'll see you on the next one. 8-Bit Heroes out. Peace. Want to give a big 8-Bit Heroes welcome to Frios RDX. Welcome to the 8-Bit Heroes family. Big shouts out to you. If you'd like to give a shout out on the channel, then hit that like button, maybe share it with a couple of friends, and do us the biggest honor of all, and subscribe to the channel so you can join the 8-Bit Heroes family. And while you're at it, hit that bell icon so you can be notified when our new videos come out.